Good evening, everyone. As Larry has said, and we are now hearing reports, air raid sirens are going off in Baghdad. We're also getting indications from our correspondent there, Nick Robertson, that it was. Nick, it's Aaron. Can you hear me? These are shots of Baghdad. These are stationary cameras that are set up around the city. It is early morning there, very early morning. The sun yet to come up, as you can tell. Nick, it's Aaron. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
What can you tell us, Nick?
I stand by.
Nick, go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, what we heard here in Baghdad a few minutes ago were the air raid sirens going off. We could hear in the distance around the city the sound of anti-aircraft guns being fired. No indication at this time that there is any air campaign ongoing, other than the fact that the air raid siren went off. The anti-aircraft guns started firing from several locations around the city. It is still very early in the morning here. The streets are quiet as they have been all night. The city this time is still a city that has all its street lights on, even though the sun is just coming up here. As far as we can see at the moment, the city does not appear to be under attack, but the air raid sirens did go off, and Iraqi anti-aircraft gun positions did fire into the air about 2 or 3 minutes.
Anything like that happen in the last 24 or 48 hours?
Absolutely not. It appears that Iraq's air defenses are on a hair trigger here, if you will, at this time. Obviously, once the 48-hour deadline that President Bush put into place for President Saddam Hussein to leave the country, the force had to be on a defensive standby. I can hear more anti-aircraft gunfire erupting across the city at this time. I don't see any tracer fire. I see tracer fire flying through the air past this hotel. Yeah, now heavy bursts of anti-aircraft gunfire coming up from the cities, coming up from across the city. Heavy anti-aircraft gunfire coming up at this time. So far, we haven't seen any major detonations at this time, but it does appear that Iraq's air defenses at least perceive that they are under threat at this time.
Nick, we are now able to also hear, I gather through the phone line, the same anti-aircraft fire you are hearing. Just stay with me. We expect...
That's correct. You may be able to hear the anti-aircraft gunfire erupting across the city. From where I'm standing, the anti-aircraft gunfire and tracer fire appears to be coming up from at least half a dozen locations across the city. Bursts of the red tracer fire flying up in the air, red tracer fire, yellow tracer fire, coming from multiple points across the city.
Nick, just to be...
across yes, go ahead.
Nick, just to be clear, everything you are seeing at this point is going from the ground up. You have yet to see anything from the sky down.
That is absolutely correct. As I look out across the city at this time, where I'm not seeing any detonations, I'm not seeing any explosions impacting on the ground. What we are seeing at the moment, and we have not felt any detonations on the ground, the tracer fire and the anti-aircraft guns are firing intensively in the air from a significant number of locations. As yet, though, we have yet to see an impact on the ground at this time. Certainly it appears that Iraq's air defense systems believe that the city is under attack, or at least under a threat at this moment.
All right, Nick, just stand down for a second, okay? Don't go away, but just stand down for a second, okay? And that's Nick Robertson in Baghdad. It is now coming up towards 6 o'clock in the morning. It's about 5:45 in the morning there. This anti-aircraft fire has been going on. Jamie McIntyre is at the Pentagon. Jamie, is it begun, or is this a false alarm?
Well, I'm not sure it's a false alarm, but as near as we can tell, this is not the beginning of the war. What we were led to believe was that overnight there would be additional strikes that would, quote, prepare the battlefield. Now, we thought those strikes would probably be in the southern no-fly zone. It's possible that southern no-fly zone is in the 33rd parallel, which is south of Baghdad. It's possible they've struck above the 33rd parallel, close to Baghdad. Again, perhaps taking out some air defenses or some other thing that's perceived as a threat. Now, we were given an indication there would be some activity, but that the war would not be starting at this timetable. So we're going to have to wait and see what the White House has to say.
And in fact, we heard this afternoon a top Pentagon official say when it starts, there won't be any doubt about it. So I think we're trying to sort through exactly what we have this early morning. We do expect to hear from the White House shortly. These, again, for those of you who are just joining us, are pictures of Baghdad. These are stationary cameras that are set up in a number of locations around the city. Anti-aircraft fire has been going off in the city for some time, but Nick Robertson, who is in Baghdad and I think still on the phone with us, has reported that everything he has seen and heard is all going from the ground up. It is all anti-aircraft fire going up, but to this point he has seen no indication of anything, any bombs, any missiles, any planes coming down. Nick, have you heard any aircraft in the air?
And the air raid warning siren here went off about 10 to 12 minutes ago. There was a brief burst of anti-aircraft gunfire that sounded distant, free of the city. Then as I was talking to you, it appeared that the anti-aircraft batteries within the city opened up. Some are going to come from government buildings. They appear to be opening up now, perhaps to the southeastern side of the city.
Nick, I'm going to interrupt you here. All right, I'm going to interrupt. Ari Fleischer, the president's spokesman.
The opening stages of the disarmament of the Iraqi regime have begun. The president will address the nation at 10:15.
Well, that is about as simple and direct as it could possibly be. The opening stages of the disarmament of Iraq, the words the White House chose to frame this in tonight, has begun, and the president will address the country.